Were you born in January? Then perhaps you've felt it. That strange kind of silence that has followed you since early in life. Not the silence of missing words. Something deeper, as if the world was waiting for something from you. Something you don't even know how to name yet. As if you arrived before everyone else. Before the party started. Before the plans were drawn. Before certainty. You were born in the month when everything begins, but where nothing is yet built. And that changes everything. January is not just the first page of the calendar. It is the symbolic portal between what was and what is yet to be. It is the moment when the old dissolves, and the new is still only an idea, a spark. Those born in January are born carrying this energetic responsibility. Two open paths, where none exist. That's why you often feel alone, even when surrounded by people. Why your mind always seems to be ahead of its time, seeing things others can't. You carry the archetype of the spiritual initiator, the one who holds the torch in the dark. But that torch, it doesn't come it must be ignited from within. And the process of lighting it is lonely, often painful, always revealing. The world won't understand you right away. It expects you to fit in. But you weren't born to fit. You were born to lead. Without a map, you are the first to walk, the first to fall, the first to rise without applause. Your journey doesn't begin with guarantees. It begins with intuition and courage. And that is far more difficult, but infinitely more real. Carl Jung once said, "The soul chooses to be born at a specific moment, because that time holds the symbolic energy it needs to evolve." January is cold. It is still. It is serious. But it is also rebirth. It is renewal. It is clarity. If your soul chose to be born in January, it is because you needed the experience of starting something big. And here's a hard truth no one tells you. Not everyone is meant to begin. Not everyone has the strength to be first. Not everyone survives walking in a world with no directions. But you do. You came built for this. And yes, the cost is high. But the reward, it's internal. It is the kind of victory only your soul can feel. And that is what matters most. While others live on repetition, you live on discovery. While others chase security, you chase meaning. While others wait to act, you move. Even if you're unsure where it leads. This is the energetic signature of your birth. And maybe you've never fully understood why you've always felt out of place. Why, even when life looks good, something still feels empty. Why, even when success arrives, something feels missing. What's missing has a name. Inner direction. And it can't be given. It must be revealed. When you finally accept your true archetype, the initiator, this isn't about being a leader on Instagram. It's about leading your spirit. In silence, it's about realizing that you are the first to break generational patterns, emotional loops, and spiritual numbness. It is about saying yes to a calling no one else hears, and trusting that the path will rise to meet your steps. If something in this video is speaking directly to you, it's because this message was meant for you. Not just to inform, but to remind you who you are. So, like this video, activate the bell, and subscribe now, because this series is revealing the full journey of the soul, month by month. But today is about you. You, born in January? You, who carry the universe's very first step in your soul. The initiator doesn't come into this world with a clear map, only a deep feeling that there is something they must build, something they must start. And this is the paradox of being born in January. Your soul feels this urgency, but life gives you little guidance. You have to build the road while walking it. That tension between knowing you were meant for something and not knowing what is often misdiagnosed as anxiety, restlessness, even self-sabotage. It's the birthing pain of a soul meant to create new structures. Carl Jung spoke often about the concept of the process of becoming. He believed that every person is born with a unique psychological blueprint, a set of symbols, patterns, and internal themes that call them to evolve. If you were born in January, your theme is clear. You are here to initiate, to break old cycles, to bring a new rhythm to life. But because you carry this blueprint, you are also required to pass through intense, internal initiations. You're not handed authority. You earn it through experience. You're not given power. You forge it through challenge. You're not born ready. You'll become it, often in silence, often in solitude. You don't fear solitude, even if you sometimes hate it. You've walked alone. You've made hard decisions no one else could understand. You've held back tears in rooms full of people, smiled when you felt like screaming, and nodded your head when your intuition was saying, "Run." You've been there. Why? Because the initiator often grows up feeling responsible for more than just themselves. They become pillars in families that were crumbling. They're the old soul kids who ask philosophical questions before they could even spell. You were born for more than this, and yet, that whisper doesn't always come with comfort. You carry an inner pressure to do it right, to be prepared, to lead even when you feel broken. Because somewhere along the way, you learned that no one else was going to do it. So you stepped up, even when you weren't ready. This is the hallmark of your soul's path. You act while others wait. You lead, not because you want to, but because you know you must. But this path comes with a price, and part of that price is emotional weight. The initiator archetype often carries generational baggage, inherited expectations, unprocessed grief, belief systems passed down through silence. And here's where your journey becomes even more sacred. You're not just starting something for you. You're starting something for everyone who came before you and couldn't. You're the first in your bloodline to ask the hard questions. Why do we always do it this way? What if I choose differently? What if I don't want to repeat this pattern? What if I heal so they don't have to carry it anymore? That's not just personal work. That's ancestral work. It's archetypal. It's cosmic. And you're doing it without fanfare. Because that's what real initiators do. They rise in silence. They act with integrity. They carry the weight until the new path is strong enough for others to walk on. But don't be mistaken. Strength isn't your only quality. Your soul also has a surprising softness. People often assume you're emotionally distant, overly practical, too serious. But beneath that exterior lies a deeply sensitive and intuitive core. You feel things before they're visible. You sense tension in a room before a word is spoken. You know when someone's lying, not because of logic, but because your energetic body detects misalignment. Jung would describe this as a natural connection with the unconscious field, a type of psychological radar, and if it isn't honored, it turns inward, manifesting as overthinking, insomnia, or even depression. So the key for your soul isn't just to lead, but to lead from alignment, not from duty, not from pride, not even from ambition, but from a clear sense of internal truth. And that, more than anything, is what makes you magnetic. Even if you don't see it yet, you're not here to impress. You're here to build something that lasts. That's why fleeting trends don't hold your attention. That's why shallow relationships exhaust you. That's why you crave depth, structure, and meaning. You're a foundation builder, an architect of inner and outer order. But first, you must become that order within yourself. That's what the month of January teaches you. It strips you bare. It makes you feel the weight of beginning with nothing. It tests your resilience, your focus, your belief. And then, slowly, it reveals that all of that weight was your forging fire. That what felt like isolation was actually preparation. That the silence wasn't abandonment. It was calibration. Because the ones born in January aren't just here to walk the path. And that changes everything. There's a side of the initiator archetype that few ever see. People might admire your strength, your discipline, your ability to lead without complaint. But what they don't see, and what you rarely speak about, is the inner weight you carry just to keep going. Because being the one who begins doesn't mean you always feel brave. In fact, the initiator often walks with a deep, secret fear. What if I'm not enough to carry this? What if I break? What if I'm building something no one else even wants? This is the shadow of your archetype. And as Jung taught, the shadow is not evil. It's simply everything within you that has been exiled. From your own attention, your own care, your own acceptance. The shadow of January-born souls often hides behind chronic self-sufficiency, emotional repression, relentless inner pressure to perform. You become so good at functioning that no one ever asks if you're okay. Because you've trained the world to believe that you always are. You smile, you lead, you create, but inside, there's a silent echo that says, "No one sees me, I'm strong, but I'm tired. I can't afford to fall apart." And that's exactly where the wound begins. The belief that your worth comes from your ability to carry everything. But let's go deeper. Where does this begin? For many born in January, childhood was marked by early responsibility. Maybe you had to grow up faster than others. Maybe you became the problem solver in your family. The mature one, the calm one, the one who held everything together. And without realizing it, you internalized the message. If I'm not useful, I'm not lovable. That belief runs deep. So deep that it becomes your unconscious identity. You seek roles where you're needed. You attach your value to what you do, not who you are. You show up even when you're empty. Because resting feels like weakness, and asking for help feels like failure. And yet, the soul knows better. The soul doesn't speak the language of productivity. It speaks the language of truth. And your truth is this: you don't have to carry everything alone to be worthy. You don't have to prove yourself to be loved. You don't have to hold your pain in silence for fear of breaking someone else, as illusion of your strength. Carl Jung once wrote. And that includes accepting the parts of you that feel fragile. The initiator's healing begins when they allow themselves to say, I am strong, but I also need support. I am a leader, but I am also human. I carry others, but I am allowed to be carried sometimes too. That's integration. You don't become whole by pretending to be invincible. You become whole by owning all of you. The confident and the insecure, the visionary and the exhausted, the builder and the one who sometimes just wants to rest. And here's something powerful you need to hear. Your vulnerability doesn't diminish your leadership. It deepens it. Because when people see that you are still showing up, even with your doubts, even with your tired heart, they don't just follow your actions. They trust your essence. The world doesn't need perfect leaders. It needs honest ones. And that begins with you. It's time to meet your own shadow. Not as an enemy, but as an exiled part of your own soul. The part of you that wants to be held, not praised. The part of you that's tired of performing. The part of you that wants to breathe and be real. When you meet that part, your energy changes. Your leadership softens. Your decisions become more intuitive. Your relationships deepen. Your creativity returns. Why? Because you're no longer building your life on pressure. You're building it on presence. Maybe this is the moment when you finally give yourself permission to feel it all. Not later, but now. To stop waiting for things to be perfect before you rest. To stop hiding your doubts behind a smile. To stop thinking that love has to be earned through performance. You were born in January not just to lead others, but to learn how to lead yourself through truth. And that begins the moment you turn toward your own shadow and say, I see you. You're part of me. Let's walk together. That's the real initiation. Keyword: I was born to begin. If anything in this message is speaking to you, but emotionally, leave a comment right now saying, I was born to begin. Because you weren't born to be everything to everyone. You were born to begin something new. To be the first. To break the cycle. To lead, not through performance, but through presence. Like this video, share it with someone you love, and keep watching. Because the journey of the initiator has only just begun. There's a moment in every initiator's life when they realize strength alone is not enough. Discipline is not enough. Even vision is not enough. Because what truly sustains your path is not your willpower, but your alignment. Up until now, much of your journey may have been fueled by necessity. I have to be the strong one. I need to figure this out alone. I can't afford to be vulnerable. But at some point, your soul will whisper something quieter and deeper. What if I didn't carry this alone? What if I moved with trust, not just tension? What if I created from truth, not urgency? This is where the initiator begins to transform, not into someone new, but into who they were meant to be all along. Carl Jung described individuation as the process of becoming whole, of integrating all parts of ourselves into a unified self. For you, the January-born initiator, this integration is your sacred task. You are not just the builder. You are also the ground on which you build. You are not just the flame. You are also the space that holds the fire. When you realize this, everything changes. You no longer feel the need to prove your strength, because you've made peace with your softness. You no longer seek permission to rest, because you've remembered that being is as holy as doing. You no longer chase identity through performance, because you've rooted yourself in purpose. And now, you are free. Free to create not from pressure, but from clarity. Free to say no when something drains your light. Free to say yes to the things that feed your soul, even if no one else understands. This is when the initiator becomes a conscious builder. A soul who doesn't just act, but acts with presence. A mind that doesn't just solve, but listens. A heart that doesn't just protect, but opens. You begin to see leadership as a vibration, and suddenly, people feel safer around you. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're not pretending anymore. Your truth gives them permission to find their own. That's the real power you carry. Not control, not perfection. Your internal and external selves finally begin to match. And in that alignment, the initiator becomes unstoppable. Not through effort, but through essence. But don't be fooled. This phase of the journey is still challenging. Because to live from alignment means you'll have to say goodbye to the old version of yourself. The one who carried too much. The one who tolerated too little. The one who smiled when it hurt. The one who made it all look easy when it wasn't. That version served you. It got you here, but it can't take you further. Now, the soul is asking something new of you. To trust the process. To allow grace. To build with breath, not burden. You may notice that you start changing your pace. That you no longer rush into fixing things. That you start asking yourself, is this truly mine to carry? Do I really want this? Or am I just used to being needed? These questions are sacred because they mark the turning point. From initiator to aligned creator. And something beautiful happens here. The world starts to mirror back your new energy. People begin to meet you differently. Opportunities arrive with less resistance. You notice synchronicities you once dismissed. You move from pushing to pulling, from force to flow. And it's not magic, it's resonance. Because you've stopped leading from survival and started living from your soul. This is what happens when the initiator stops running from themselves and returns home. You begin to understand that you're not here to carry the weight of the world. You're here to create new worlds. By being true to your essence. Maybe your essence is quiet. Maybe it's fierce. Maybe it's structured. Maybe it's poetic. Whatever it is, it's enough. The goal is not to become something greater. It's to become more yourself. Because the most powerful thing you can build is a life that fits your soul. And once you do, you stop waiting for permission. You stop needing validation. You stop chasing answers from people who were never meant to understand your path. You become the architect of your own experience. Rooted, real, radiant. And then, without forcing it, you start to lead again. But this time, from truth. Keyword. I walk my own path. If something inside you whispered yes while listening to this, drop a comment right now saying, I walk my own path. That's your soul speaking. That's your energy shifting. That's the initiator finally stepping into their full presence. Like this video? Subscribe if you haven't already. And share this with someone who needs to remember that building something beautiful begins by being honest with yourself. By now, you've probably realized you were never meant to have an ordinary life. You didn't come here to follow the script. You came to rewrite it. That's the sacred legacy of those born in January. You are the ones who carry beginnings, not just for yourselves, but for others. And whether you realize it or not, your presence sets the tone for entire spaces, communities, and generations. But here's what they never told you. The way you live becomes a signal. Every time you choose truth over convenience, every time you slow down instead of pushing harder, every time you honor your intuition instead of pleasing others, you send a message into the field. There is another way. That message, it changes people. Even the ones who never say it out loud. Even the ones who pretend not to notice. Even the ones who doubt you. Because the true power of the initiator isn't in what they force. It's in what they awaken. Maybe you've spent most of your life trying to prove something. Trying to be strong. Trying to be successful. Trying to be seen. But now you're beginning to see the bigger picture. You weren't born to prove. You were born to become. You were born to embody a new possibility. To show that strength doesn't mean suppression. That leadership doesn't mean control. That spirituality doesn't mean escape. That success doesn't mean... You were born to be the first one in your lineage to say no more. No more cycles of guilt. No more silence around pain. No more carrying things that aren't yours. No more chasing things that cost you your peace. And in doing that, in breaking those invisible contracts, you free more than just yourself. You free the ones who came before you. You free the ones who will come after you. You become a turning point in your bloodline, in your community, and in the collective unconscious. Jung would call that archetypal transformation. The moment when your individual growth becomes a symbol, a beacon, for something much larger. And maybe this is where your real legacy begins. Not in what you achieve, not in what you collect, but in what you become. A person who is rooted in their truth. A person who lives in alignment. A person who heals, not by preaching, but by embodying wholeness. The kind of person who, just by walking into a room, raises the frequency. Not because they demand it, But because their very presence says, it's safe to be who you are. You don't have to hide anymore. Let's start something real. That's what people feel from you, even if they pretend not to notice. Because light often triggers what's still hidden in others. But your job isn't to shrink. It's to remain light. So here's what I want you to remember as we close this journey. You were born in January. In the quiet. In the cold. In the pause between worlds. You carry the fire that lights the first step. You are the soul that dares to begin when nothing is guaranteed. You are the architect of new blueprints. The first to walk through uncharted territory. The one who chooses meaning over comfort. The one who transforms pressure into presence. And even when it feels like no one sees you, the ripple effect of your authenticity is bigger than you'll ever realize. You've already begun changing things, just by being who you are. So now, walk with that, knowing, not with urgency, not with perfection, but with grounded, embodied presence. You don't need to chase purpose. You are purpose. You don't need to fight for visibility. You were born to shine from within. You don't need to fix everything. You only need to live your truth. And that truth will ripple into everything. Let this be your legacy. To begin again and again. From your soul. Keyword: I am the beginning. If this message touched something real in you, if you feel seen, awakened, or finally understood, leave a comment saying, I am the beginning. This isn't just a phrase. It's your reminder. Your identity. Your sacred role in this lifetime. Like this video. Subscribe to keep following this journey. We're going through every month of the year. And if you know someone born in January, send this to them. They deserve to know who they really are.